Americans have been through so much over the past 4 years, and President Trump said it himself, it's the dawn of a golden age. This is Liberation Day. Great days are ahead.
From this moment on, America's decline is over.
Yeah. Hear, hear.
I mean, that's it. That's it, right? First of all, I love that he started off red hot.
What I heard is a president who is committed to delivering for the people that put him back in the White House.
I don't have to tell you Americans are ready for what's next. Moving beyond the hardships of inflation and economic anxiety towards building a future, a better future for our families. Ensuring greater access to more affordable energy that powers daily lives, reliable energy that fuels innovation and economic growth, and the abundant energy that keeps our nation safer and more secure. It's all within our grasp. We'll do this together, building a brighter future for us, powered by America's oil and natural gas resources. You can learn more about all of this at api.org.
Ladies and gentlemen, your attention, please.
Just a catching strays over here.
You're in for a hell of a show.
Keep the faith, hold the line, and own the libs.
It's time for our main event.
Welcome to a new dawn in America, the Ruthless Variety Program. Boy, is this exciting. We may look a little different to you. It's because we're celebrating.
That's right.
There is a new President of the United States. Meet the new boss, same as the old boss. And I'm Josh Holmes, along with Comfortably Smug, Michael Duncan, John Ashbrook, coming to you here from Washington, D.C., where there is a very celebratory nature amongst basically everybody in town. Because if you're not with us, you're against us here, and they got the hell out of here.
That's right. It's Liberation Day. It's the dawn of a golden age.
That's
like
right.
we have worked, all our listeners, we all put in the work. President Trump put in the work. He survived. God saved the man to make America great again, and we are here to celebrate. All that work was for this day, and I cannot tell you how great it feels, how happy everyone is, and how great it is to see President Trump back.
Now, we have one little quibble, and that is the last time you heard from us. We were obviously under the impression that we were going to be doing the game day set. I'm told it was just a spectacular location, and everything was terrific. Unfortunately, Mother Nature didn't cooperate with us, and with that, security changed and perimeters changed and all of those things. We were not able to do the live game day set for what was going to be a spectacular parade. What can you do? Wish we could have done it. Awful lot of people. I ran into some on my way here today that were like, man, we were waiting for it. But we couldn't make that happen. That piece of it, what are you going to do?
And I actually have some very insider info on this. I don't think it's been reported either. I spoke to someone very familiar with the situation, and they said that President Trump spoke with one of the official doctors, and he asked the doctor, if we held it outside, would people get hurt? And the doctor said, without a doubt, I can say yes. And President Trump said, then we have to change it.
Yeah.
What a great president. I mean, it is disappointing. But on Sunday, I was near the Capitol, and I was talking to a couple of people who were standing outside. And one guy I went up to, I was like, you look like you've been standing outside a long time. He was soaking wet. I was like, are you disappointed that this isn't going to be outside and it's not going to be what you expected this weekend? He was like, a little bit, but to be honest with you, I don't need what I want tomorrow because I get what we need for the next 4 years.
That's excellent.
And I
done.
I was like, man, you said it exactly
That's
right. I
it.
got to remember that so I can say it on the show. But you just look at all these people. There are people standing in line for this Capital One rally the night before it happened. So they were out all night standing. And I know people who stood in line for the Capital One rally on Sunday. They got like basically up to the door and then were turned away, but they were there outside all day.
Yeah.
And the Trump faithful are just so euphoric that finally their voices have been heard. Finally, there's going to be change in Washington. That, a little bit of disappointment's not going to take the shine off their 4 years.
And an absolutely gorgeous ceremony, nevertheless. Just recall, look, they had about 2.5 months to try to plan an inauguration the way that we'd all been laid out, including, our little show and everything else. And then in a course of 24 hours, they had to change absolutely everything go to an arena and an indoor event at the Capitol. They had overseating in the Capitol Visitor Center. All of the programming needed to change, including, like Carrie Underwood, who went a cappella.
Impressive. That was amazing.
Because they were, we were all wondering how she was going to sing in 5 degrees, 10 degrees. Like, that would have been a trick. But music didn't work, and she just hammered it. I mean, literally, the whole thing, it couldn't have been more beautiful. This country was treated to a magnificent show of a peaceful transfer of power, the likes that only America can do, right?
Yeah. It was an amazing, amazing event. And just, looking online, the reaction from people who are just so overjoyed that this day has finally come. Americans have been through so much over the past 4 years, and President Trump said it himself. It's the dawn of a golden age. Mm-hmm. This is Liberation Day. Great days are ahead.
When it really got to me was right after he was sworn in. I came to the studio a little bit earlier today, just so I could watch the speech and just sort of think about it. Right after he was sworn in, they started playing the Battle Hymn of the Republic.
Yeah.
And I was walking up to the studio, which, as you guys know, is very close to the White House. And I was just overcome with emotion because there's so much history and there is so much tradition in this country that was preserved today. And we actually are headed into the greatest 4 years that we've had.
Well, and selfishly, just for the Ruthless Variety program, it's a big moment for us.
Yeah.
We started this show on the eve of the 2020 election, which obviously didn't go our way. And so it's been tough sledding for the last 4 years.
No question about it. Yeah, we've seen this thing through some pretty dark times.
Through some dark times.
And now look at how handsome you bastards are.
Yeah.
Huh?
But
everybody looks better.
What's the line from Shawshank Redemption?
Oh, you crawled through a river
of shit and came out clean on the other side?
Yeah, that's it.
And that's why we're in tuxedos. We're going to celebrate, and I hope everybody else out there is celebrating.
Yeah, we're going to go to some balls tonight, some parties. You guys have been doing this all weekend long. I listen, it's a great crowd. Everybody around here is just so happy. We're going to play for you. We're going to start off with some summaries here and some of what you heard from President Trump. I think the way he started this speech yesterday was amongst as powerful a message as you could to unite not only what he believes, but what everybody who voted for President Trump believes in America. Let's play clip 1, if you wouldn't mind.
My recent election is a mandate to completely and totally reverse a horrible betrayal and all of these many betrayals that have taken place, and to give the people back their faith, their wealth, their democracy, and indeed their freedom. From this moment on, America's decline is over.
Yeah.
Hear, hear.
That's it. That's it, right? First of all, I love that he started off red hot.
Yep.
Right? Because there's a tendency, look, it's all about pageantry, pomp and circumstance, very bipartisan event. There's just as many Democrats in there as there are Republicans when you have a Capitol Rotunda thing, because you've got, members of Congress, both sides of the aisle, presidents, both sides of the aisle, dignitaries, both sides of the aisle. There's a tendency to just sort of like gloss over the real stuff that got him there. Not with Trump. Not with Trump. He started off laying down that line of demarcation that he sees his administration as an answer to, which obviously when the guy who's, the former president of the United States, as of 2 minutes before he starts talking, is sitting like a yard behind him to the left. Like, that's not the easiest thing in the world to do.
But it's necessary because, Donald Trump has this relationship with his supporters, that he is their vessel for their frustrations with a system that they believe has failed them and has, And so he's going to use this as an opportunity to say, in the same way Bill Clinton said, I feel your pain.
Yeah.
And that's what Donald Trump did after the 2016 election as well. And I noticed this, by the way, after the speech was over, and I was in an Uber and NPR was on, as it frequently is in this town. That honeymoon period for Donald Trump lasted about 30 seconds. The speech gets done and they're like, Well, it's American Carnage 2.0.
Yeah.
Donald Trump's, inaugural address, the same in 2016, a dark and doomed America. And it's like, that's not what I heard out of that.
Not even a little bit.
What I heard is a president who is committed to delivering for the people that put him back in the White House.
Right. No, it's absolute garbage, and it demonstrates that NPR learned absolutely nothing from what happened in November. I mean, this is a guy that is so important at this moment in American history for so many reasons, but including stylistically. Donald Trump is a very declarative speaker, and you get some politicians who will go up there and say, well, on one hand, X, on the other hand, Y. Donald Trump stood up and he made a series of declarations. And that is exactly what this country needs to hear from their leader on the heels of a guy who couldn't put two sentences together for 4 years. That's what the world needs to hear from our leader.
I think that's well said. I also think, look, this is a very different time than it was in 2017 when Donald Trump, I think the vast majority of not only political experts, but people who follow it relatively closely, Republicans, Democrats, thought they weren't unsure about all of this, right? Donald Trump was new to the scene. They didn't know what to expect. There was sort of a nervousness about who this guy is and what he intends to do. And so when you got like the NPRs and all those folks that were out doing what they do predictably, they had an audience that was a little bit more of a bipartisan audience in that regard. Not only do they not have a bipartisan audience right now for that sort of American Carnage 2.0 take, nobody's listening to any of that shit, not even on the left. They know that we're in a very different point of view. Like, this is a guy that not only resoundingly won re-election, he won the popular vote. And he won it for the second time after everything you knew about Donald Trump. And they want him. And they want him much more in comparison to the guy who's walking out the door in Joe Biden. So you can continue to do that from a media standpoint. I fully expect them to do. But the resonance of all of that, not just in like who's listening to the media, but even if you're listening to it, it doesn't take hold like it used to.
And I loved what Ashbrook said about, Trump speaks in these declarative statements. And I think it's such a contrast to like Barack Obama, who would say, pablum like, we're not red states and blue states, we're the United States. Right. And it's like, it's not this wishy-washy thing. It's, we are no longer managing the decline of America. We're making America great.
Yep.
And that's it.
That's it.
And that's the message. We're all on that team because we want America to be great. We don't have to do this wishy-washy, I believe in this, you believe in that, and we're going to come together. No, there is a principle that the United States is this thing that we all want it to be, and you're either with that idea or you're not.
Yep.
And, along the lines, when we're talking about the media and American decline, I'd be remiss if I didn't mention, I'm sure all the folks were seeing over the past weekend these stories of how the media is like, oh, and did you know that Joe Biden didn't know where he was and that Joe Biden had to use teleprompters because his staff knew he couldn't do anything? And it's like, this is exactly why the American people lost faith in the media, is they all knew what bad shape Joe Biden's decline was, this country's decline. And the media oversaw it, and they didn't tell the American people. They kept it to themselves. They tried to win this election, tricking the American people. And like Donald Trump said, those days are over.
Yeah, well, we've blown right through that. And Donald J. Trump went on to outline exactly what it was that he was talking about later on in the speech. We're going to get to more of those highlights right after this.
As President Trump begins his new administration, one of the top Democrats in Congress aiming to undermine the Trump agenda is Chicago's Senator Dick Durbin. And now Senator Durbin has a new scheme, a government takeover of your credit card. Today, Americans have thousands of choices in credit cards, all with equal, strong security. But Senator Durbin's plan will result in less competition and less security. And that means more risk for your credit and your identity. Tell Republican senators stop Dick Durbin's government takeover of your credit card before it's too late. Learn more at www.electronicpaymentscoalition.org.
All right, so this Trump speech, in my view, hit the mark for so many different reasons. Some of it was the specificity with which he reflected back all of the key issues that he not only ran on, but people were begging him to talk about. Things that, polite society would say, yeah, you can't talk about in public, right? things like DEI and all of these sort of race-baited stuff that he firmly stood against. And there was some clues after the election, like, I don't know, is he going to get into all of this stuff right away? Yep, no questions asked. He outlined exactly what it was that he heard from voters, and then he used it in his inauguration speech to talk about what he was going to do. I thought that was incredibly powerful, because sometimes you get people to blow right past their election mandate and just talk about, well, now I'm in power, so let's all get along. Not this case. And I love that. I think that's one of the lessons learned from 2017 is that they're not going to let you do anything you don't just force upon the bureaucracy
That's right.
of the United States. And he used that address to say, like, we're not doing, as you said, Duncan, the flowery language
Right.
and all the nonsense. Here's what we are doing.
Well, because progressivism, like in order for progressivism to succeed long term, is for us all to go along to get along. And Donald Trump will, in the affirmative, reject it.
Yep.
And it's just so important. I'm so glad he does, because the left for so long has tried to project what the idea of America is. And it undergirds everything from DEI to they've made the idea that America's a melting pot like a slur that you're not supposed to say. And I'm sorry, but America is a melting pot. People come from all over the world. God bless you for doing it. But we actually stand for something here.
Yep.
And this country has principles that we believe in. And I mean, like, having a president like Donald Trump who can articulate those things, I think is just so important.
And happening on MLK Day, when he referenced MLK, and he says, it's the content of your character, not the color of your skin.
That's right.
When we grew up, fellas.
Yeah, colorblind society.
That was what it was, right? And not too long ago, even in 2017, when Donald Trump would say something like that on Martin Luther King Day, people would be like, oh boy, very controversial. Nope, it's not anymore.
Nope. We're
There's
done with it.
two generations, the youngest of the voters in Gen Z and Gen X and older millennials who grew up with, like, we didn't do any of that stuff, and you've dragged us back into the late 1960s as a result of this incredibly divisive social policy, that are looking at Donald Trump and saying, thank God.
Yep.
Thank God. And we now have a president who's speaking to the asinine idea that somehow we are now a full color, we have to... whatever you can do, it's just based upon what you look like. What you're born in, like a caste system. I mean, that's the antithesis of America. He spoke to all of that, but he did it with purpose, and this is one of the reasons why, I think, clip 2.
The journey to reclaim our republic has not been an easy one, that I can tell you. Those who wish to stop our cause have tried to take my freedom and indeed to take my life. Just a few months ago in a beautiful Pennsylvania field, an assassin's bullet ripped through my ear. But I felt then, and believe even more so now, that my life was saved for a reason. I was saved by God to make America great again.
I just love that moment.
Yep.
I mean, look, not only does he genuinely believe that, so do millions of Americans across this country. It's hard to look, doesn't matter what you believe in. Like, fate is a very real thing, right? And how he overcame what he overcame, it's the greatest political comeback story in the history of American politics, unquestionably, no matter what. That's before you get into assassin's bullets, as he was talking about. There's just no question that there is some reason why this man is back. And I think all of us sort of collectively felt that yesterday.
Yeah.
Ain't you? I mean, it's just it's like a higher purpose, not just an election victory. It's like there's something to do here. And I don't care if you're like lukewarm on Donald Trump or if you're red hot on Donald Trump. You have to believe that there is a purpose for all of this.
Yeah, exactly right. And I think, despite what NPR is reporting, I saw Politico write the same thing, attacking his speech. We all know they're Democrats and they're just making partisan shots. It was a very unifying speech. It was ambitious. It was bold. It was uplifting. It was unifying. And he spoke to everybody in this entire country in a way that almost anybody could understand.
That's right.
And he ticked through the issues, too. A huge one of the main, if not the main issue for reasons why he's returning to the White House is the issue of immigration. If we can play clip 3, please, Spaghetts.
First, I will declare a national emergency at our southern border. All illegal entry will immediately be halted, and we will begin the process of returning millions and millions of criminal aliens back to the places from which they came. We will reinstate my Remain in Mexico policy. I will end the practice of catch and release. And I will send troops to the southern border to repel the disastrous invasion of our country. Under the orders I signed today, we will also be designating the cartels as foreign terrorist organizations.
Yeah.
I mean, look, you get a lot of speeches from presidents where they're like, we'll work with Congress in a bipartisan fashion to try to accomplish the following things. Nope. What he's talking about is what he just did on day one by signing a whole lot of executive orders. And you're reminded when you look just to, stage right, and you see Joe Biden looking at his shoes and Kamala Harris sitting next, they had the power to do this all along and chose not to.
Yeah, and it's what's so interesting to me, and it was revealed on Election Day when Donald Trump not only won, he won the popular vote, and he won literally every swing state across the map. What he just laid out there has broad support.
Yep.
Like 95% in the Republican Party, 75% of independents, and majorities of Democrats.
Yeah.
And you've got Kamala Harris and Joe Biden sitting there looking at their shoes, like you said.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, why do you think you lost?
Yeah.
I was struck by that.
Nothing that he said in that speech is controversial at all.
No, and nor did it come as a surprise, but just the depiction, right? This just big, beautiful Capitol Rotunda, just all the pomp and circumstance, all the dignitaries and everything. But as he says that, look, in a blink of an eye, America's sovereignty is returned because he's just done that. And that is a very significant thing. But I was struck by Biden and Harris sitting next to him, looking at their shoes. Mm-hmm. What a failure.
Yeah.
Right?
That's
what
right.
Just an amazing failure. And it takes somebody using their inaugural address to really stamp what a failure it actually is, because he's doing it just 2 minutes after the guy takes the oath of office. He's done what for 4 years they told you they couldn't do. Oh, Congress killed it. We can't do anything.
And
Hands are tied.
And it's so also for the American people, it's cathartic to hear that.
Yeah.
Because for years they've been told, hey, if you bring up the fact that there are criminals, illegals in your towns who are killing people, who are bringing in drugs, if you were to even mention that, you're racist. Aren't you being hurtful? Yeah. You need to be censored. So for American people to finally have they made their voices loud and clear on Election Day, but President Trump is affirming every one of their concerns and saying, listen, I know this is what you've been crying out, and you are free to say it, and I'm going to make sure it happens.
No hedging.
Yeah, and in a lot of ways, it was an unfortunately poetic moment because Kamala Harris spent her 4 years claiming that she was looking for root causes, and at the end of the day, she was looking at her shoes.
Nope.
Yeah. Looking at her shoes.
There you go.
That is well said. Absolutely. Another piece that I know us on the Variety program have gotten fired up about, and if you listen to the mainstream media, they're wringing their hands about all of this, but I think it's core to what we talked about at the very beginning about how Trump doesn't see this as just sort of managing a decline of a country. He's looking at this in terms of how do you make America great again in the fullest extent of the sentence. And amongst those things is the very obvious issue that we deal with the Panama Canal.
Yep.
He spoke to this here in clip 4.
We have been treated very badly from this foolish gift that should have never been made, and Panama's promise to us has been broken. The purpose of our deal and the spirit of our treaty has been totally violated. American ships are being severely overcharged and not treated fairly in any way, shape, or form, and that includes the United States Navy. And above all, China is operating the Panama Canal, and we didn't give it to China. We gave it to Panama, and we're taking it back.
yeah.
Dude.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Right? Because if you listen to like the pollsters and the pundits or whatever, let's say it's pretty controversial. You know, you get in day one, you don't want to be messing around in foreign affairs. Nonsense. The idea that the American people have financed an entire building of the Panama Canal, you lost tens of thousands of American lives in order to get that done. We made a treaty with Panama at some point, ill-advised or not, in order to give it back to them. And next thing you know, you got Chinese operators on both ends of it. And we are having trouble with our own Navy? No, that's what presidents do.
He said, not on my watch.
That's what presidents do. The fact that it never came up under anybody else is a damning indictment.
It really is.
It really is.
I mean, it really is, and it shows. You know, he talked about the Panama Canal. He did not mention Greenland, but one thing he did mention was planting the stars and stripes on Mars. So you have this guy who is thinking so much bigger than his predecessors ever really thought. You know, he is pushing America forward, whether it's Canada, you know, Greenland, Panama Canal, or something like Mars. He is forcing people to think bigger. Think about what you can do with what you're given here as Americans. And I think it's a very, very special moment in time.
I think like every politician would admit that we are in an existential competition with China. But it seems like Donald Trump is the only one who is going to speak to the specificity of the things we have to do if we want to win that competition when it comes to things like Panama or Greenland. I mean, these aren't just like fanciful things. There are very tactical, strategic reasons why he's interested in this sort of thing.
Totally. And look, governing is even worse than campaigning. You know, I've heard the fellas, all of us talk for years about, you know, you don't see awesome, really sort of innovative campaigns anymore because, you know, all your political consultants, you do what's sort of conventional wisdom. You don't color outside the lines because nobody ever gets fired for doing conventional wisdom.
Yeah.
You know, everybody gets fired if you do something and it doesn't work. Governing is even worse in that standpoint. If you're just managing over top of a problem that everybody knows, as long as it doesn't get any worse, nobody blames you for anything. That's just not the way Donald Trump operates.
Right.
And it's not the way that he's operating on all of these issues. He's not interested, as you said, he's not interested in just sort of presiding over a problem. He's going to tell you a way we can fix it. And I don't know how that thing's going to resolve itself with Panama, but I can tell you he's not going anywhere. Like, he's going to make that thing an issue. And anybody thinks that it's going away, they're nuts.
Yeah,
it's not going away.
You know, Holmes, there's something that you always talk about in the context of a presidential election, that no candidate can win based off of the other guy's playbook.
Surfing the other person's wave.
Exactly. And I think that he is taking that to the next level, that, like, no truly great president can be great and can move this country forward if he's playing some other person's game.
Yeah.
And this guy is going to be one for the ages.
Yeah, it's his own thing.
It's his own thing. You talk about the Monroe Doctrine, you know, like we all still say the Monroe Doctrine. Well, it's because the guy had balls and actually executed on something, you know? This is what Trump has, big, gigantic balls.
Yeah.
And he laid them out for the world to see, and he's like, What are you going to do to me?
No question about it. The other thing before we transition out of here, the crowd was interesting to me, right? I mean, you basically had like a who's who titans of industry sitting behind. It was the first sort of combined group that I've ever seen at an inauguration. Usually you get like split delegations and some people are like, I don't want to be political. But everybody from Bezos and his wife, which we'll talk about in a minute, or girlfriend, or whatever she is, I don't know. But like everything for her, to Elon, we know the critical component that he played in the course of the last few months. But you get Mark Zuckerberg there. You've got Miriam Adelson there. You've got, you know, far beyond just the partisanship, people who sort of like red shirts and blue shirts. It looked an awful lot like a cross-section of a business community that's very concerned about their country and knows that it's going to take somebody like Donald Trump to change it. Which I thought was, I mean, that in and of itself was a pretty striking thing.
But I think it goes back to what I was saying earlier about the existential competition we have with China. And I think, like, the business community recognized this as a national project. And it requires somebody who looks around the globe where America's getting screwed and tries to fix it. Because if he can fix it for America, he's going to fix it for the rest of us.
Yep.
Yeah.
He's going to fix it for these companies. He's going to fix it for their ability to do business across the globe. And so it makes sense, you know? I mean, a good deal for America is a good deal for these businesses, is a good deal for us.
Yeah. Yeah. And I just think, look, you get busy growing or you get busy dying as a
Yeah.
country, right? I mean, and that's the thing. It's like economically, if we're not moving in a direction, it's not just like the manifest destiny component that the media is all talking about. It's like, are we gonna lead this thing or not?
Right.
And the rest of the world's sitting around like, I don't think they're gonna do it. And all of a sudden, you look at this inauguration speech, and you're like, no, I'm pretty sure he's gonna do it.
Yep.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure he's gonna do it.
And you can't do it without making a lot of enemies. It's not like Europe is rooting for us.
That's right.
You know?
Yeah.
And so I'm so excited. for
Although
these
the
next 4
chirping's
years.
down.
Yeah.
Not a lot of
I
chirping.
don't know, I don't know how you say his first name, Starmer.
Yeah.
The prime minister put out a nice tweet saying that he actually likes Trump now.
Nice.
Oh, well, he better.
Yeah.
There's no option.
A lot of people have had that revelation in the
Yeah.
last few weeks. So our question of the day is, what was your favorite part? We just covered a few of them. There's an awful lot left out there. Would love to hear from you. What was your favorite part of this inaugural speech? Maybe it's just the rotunda ceremony. That in and of itself we haven't seen since
It was
1985. It was absolutely gorgeous. The acoustics of the place. It was just, it was very, very well done. And the fact that you can throw that together in like 36 hours, hats off to the
Incredible
team.
work.
They did a great job on that. That's our question of the day. You got to like and subscribe to the YouTube channel, and we'll read your stuff on Thursday with an update. But we also want to get to your questions that you answered from last Thursday, which is, what were your plans? What were your big plans for Monday? Most people had off of work, and so there was something you could do. We thought we were going to be coming to you live, so I'm sorry about that again. That's out of our control. But we asked you, and we read your responses, and do that. We always start with a voice.
Okay, the first one comes from Jen Lynn. And Jen writes, my answer to your question of the day, my plans are the same as the last time Trump was inaugurated. Drinking Corbel pink champagne,
Hell
the
yeah.
exact same brand that was served at the luncheon during dessert the last time.
Oh, attention to
Lynn.
detail from Jen.
Tradition now.
Nice. Jen doesn't forget.
No, that's good. That's good. All right, Harunks, what do we got?
This is from Edie Bonin. What's my plan for Inauguration Day? I'm working on Hurricane Helene damage repair on that day. Although the inauguration is an extremely important historical event, the people here continue to live outside the norms and should not be forgotten. As a supporter of President Trump, I am sure he will appreciate the ongoing efforts in this area and will not begrudge the working men and women trying to stabilize this hard-hit area. I look forward to his diligence toward the communities of North Carolina, where I'm volunteering to help. I came from Florida, the free state of Florida. God bless this country, and God bless our president.
And God bless you,
Yeah.
Edie. And I'm sure you were delighted to hear President Trump address that very specifically.
Immediately, the people in North Carolina. I mean, it was so wonderful to hear that, and they are struggling. The situation is still dire in Western North Carolina. To hear President Trump right off the bat say, "I'm thinking about you, and we're going to get to work helping you folks," that was terrific. to
And what a
hear.
great line of demarcation there, too, because, like Biden and their whole MO, everything off the left, that if you make a mistake, if you really fuck something up, like Afghanistan withdrawal or like this hurricane relief or wildfires in L.A., the whole thing is to just put your head down, pretend like it didn't happen, and hope the news cycle and the news media does the work for you and get on something else as quickly as possible. Not with Trump.
That's right.
Not with Trump. He's going to talk about it, and he did. That was great. Next comment, Smuggles.
This is from Keith Coblitz. Keith writes, "My wife and I are celebrating by going on a cruise. Then we'll watch the inauguration, and then my Buckeyes winning the national championship. What a great way to start a new golden age." I mean, did he call it the golden age? Look at that.
Well, we know at least one member of the Trump administration is going to be pretty happy if Ohio State dots the I tonight. J.D. Vance.
There was this a great tweet. I can't remember who put it out, but it was an image of JD when he was walking into the rotunda, and it said, "Thought bubble. If I leave for the airport right now, go from the airport to the stadium."
We've heard a lot of hilarity, by the way, behind the scenes of like in the weeks leading up to the inauguration of JD continuing to explore whether or not like he'd get fired.
Contingencies, yeah.
He'd get fired if he like maybe missed the last ball. The man was committed. I absolutely love it. So look, thank you for all of those. Remember, like and subscribe. We'll get to your answers on what you did on Monday, on Thursday. But there's another side of the coin here, fellas. And we've been covering here for the last couple of months just how poorly a president could leave office. I'm absolutely, totally certain now, based upon the actions of Joe Biden and Kamala Harris on their way out the door, this will be regarded as the worst president in this history of this country.
I think so.
I just don't think there's any other way to look at it. And in some ways it provides Trump an opportunity. But if you look at what this guy saved for last, it's truly remarkable.
Yeah.
I'm guessing that the pardons and all of this that happened at the end, which we're going to get to in a minute, I'm guessing that all of that stuff was like hidden so they hoped it wouldn't get into Trump's inaugural.
Boy, it sure
Like they waited until like the draft had been submitted.
It sure seemed like it. I mean, it seemed like Biden signed these things in the car on his way from the White House to the Capitol just so he didn't risk Trump saying something about it in the speech.
I mean, I think
Cynical
so.
as it gets.
I mean, there's a reason that we call them the Biden crime family. I mean, this is despicable. It's despicable that this is his last act as president, the most important office in the planet, one that has tremendous power and responsibility. The chief among them is serving the American people. And who does he serve right to the end is himself and his family's interests. It's disgusting.
Just look at the contrast, right? As Trump literally took the oath of office, he signs a executive order to end the electric vehicle mandate.
Yep.
Horrible. We've talked about this for 4 long years. Thank God, right? The way the New York Times puts this is walk back protections for transgender students. Or what he said was basically that there are 2 biological genders, a male and a female. Not particularly controversial. Sometimes the New York Times may realize that or may never, but that's what he did. All of the immigration stuff that we just discussed, and a whole lot more that we're going to talk about on Thursday, but he's doing that right after Biden gets done scribbling an immense number of pardons for his family, for crimes not specified,
Of course.
for Fauci, for Milley, and then a host of these just sort of political like losers.
You know, I don't know if you guys caught Trump's remarks to the crowd after he was sworn in. He walked to a different part of the Capitol and had a huge group of people, and he started talking through some of this stuff, like the Adam Kinzinger.
Oh yeah,
And he was like crying Adam Kinzinger, and he was like he cried so much, and it was very, very funny. And I feel like because he said crying Adam Kinzinger, we have to officially change the moniker in King of the Hill from Cuck Kinzinger to Crying Adam Kinzinger.
That's a good one. Yeah.
Well, what's so fascinating? So he also pardoned members of Congress and staff who served on the Select Committee. What he's talking about is the J6 committee, because there's a lot of talk out of Trump camp about what they've done with evidence and got rid of evidence, and what they're doing is basically using that as an argument for what I assume is coming with J6 pardons and everything else. The way that Biden interprets it. Remember we talked about how like Mika and Joe went down to Mar-a-Lago because they were afraid they were going to get thrown in Guantanamo.
Yeah.
Or at least that's what they were like. But this is the silo, the information silo that they live in. Like he's issuing all of these pardons to anybody and everybody who's worked in the Democratic perversion of justice that has happened under the Biden administration. Meanwhile, unbeknownst to President Trump, in the script of what he delivered was, we're done politicizing the Department of Justice. No longer will that happen. What he's doing is answering the question even before this happened that there's only one guy, only one administration that's politicizing justice in this country. And if you had any question about that, look at the actions of the 2 men on the day of the inauguration.
No,
That contrast is perfect.
It
Perfect.
is a perfect contrast, although I'm a little bit disappointed because I was hoping that Smug would be named warden of Guantanamo Bay.
I'll still take the position. And like Ashbrook brought up, Obama didn't get a pardon. Obama did not get a pardon.
I noticed Obama's name was
Oh,
left
yeah.
off of that
Yeah.
list. And maybe it was Michelle lobbying
From
Joe
Hawaii?
Biden. Yeah.
That was weird,
she has
too,
a
by
pen
the
and a
way.
phone. She has a pen and a phone.
It was weird to see everybody walk in and then know Michelle Obama again. I mean,
Something
because the
must be up.
presidents are all their spouses. Like, I mean, it's a very picturesque, it's a historic, momentous deal when you've got multiple former presidents and their spouses walking through in this pomp and circumstance, and then all of a sudden, no, it's just Brock.
No, that can't be true, though, because I've been told reliably that the Democrats believe in the peaceful transfer of power
Yeah.
and norms
Yeah.
and respecting the will of the voters and all of these things. You're kidding me. She didn't show up?
Yeah, can you believe that?
Maybe Obama's hoping that Trump will pardon him since Joe Biden didn't.
Did you put graphic one up? Let's take a look at graphic one more time. You just pop that sucker up one more time. I mean, this is who he's talking about with his, James Biden. That's his brother, right? The one that was in business with Hunter and a whole bunch of other stuff, which came under scrutiny only because of House Republicans and asking these questions in the first place. Remember, the media did nothing, absolutely nothing
Right.
to raise any question.
Right.
But he goes on down the list for all of these people, and like, for crimes unnamed, right? But guess what? They accepted it.
Yep.
They accepted it.
I
If you didn't do anything wrong, would you accept a pardon?
No. I every night I sleep like a baby. I got a clear conscience. I'm not trying to sell the country to China like the Biden family.
The last guy on this list is one that's near and dear to some of these guys on the program. We ran a campaign in 2014 where the father of the candidate used his business to finance his daughter's campaign. Millions of dollars. Totally off books, totally illegal, like red letter law. I mean, just absolutely against the law. Got convicted, got sentenced. His name was Jerry Lundergan. Oh, he got a pardon.
Yeah.
Really important for
Upholding democracy.
yeah, it's the continuity of American government.
Well,
Let's
you don't
make
understand,
sure that guy
Holmes,
gets
the
out.
man gave a lot of money to Democrats.
Yeah.
I
That's
mean,
a get out of jail free
he
card with the
literally
Bidens.
he literally interfered in an election.
Yeah.
And he got a pardon for it.
Literally
Because
did.
he's a Democrat.
Just think about that, guys.
Yeah.
Like, this is not. I don't care what the outrage will come and go, and I'm sure when whatever happens on J6 happens, like Democrats will go absolutely nuts about it, but it just doesn't hold a candle to what these guys just do.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I mean, it's like Jerry Lundergan. This guy's a dirtbag. I mean,
Yeah.
you want to talk about the dredges of the political earth? This is a dude who like swamp creature around Frankfort, Kentucky forever, like doling out cash to all his people. His daughter runs for Senate against a majority leader of the Senate, so he decides, oh, I'm just going to bankroll this thing off books, which he's been convicted of this shit before, by the way. Or, I mean, not convicted. He was alleged, indicted, and maybe got off. Maybe same circumstance. I don't know. But, like, what happened is he was convicted, and so that guy clearly goes to the top of the pile. Like, why would it even occur to you?
What rhymes with campaign finance crimes? It's this guy right here. And his daughter, Allison Lundergan Grimes. Just how many crime families exist in the Democrat Party, and they get each other off scot-free, get out of jail free cards. It's disgusting.
But again, when Trump says he's not interested, take his word for it. I mean, that's what that's about. I'm sure there's a lot of people looking for retribution. What this president made very clear in that inaugural is what he wants to do is rebalance the scales, as he said.
Yeah.
Rebalance the scales. And I think that makes a hell of a lot of sense from my perspective. You guys ready for some variety?
Always.
Yeah.
Just a couple things that were eye-popping.
I like how you put that.
I couldn't help but notice. Look, people were dressed to the nines.
Yeah.
First of all, Melania, fantastic.
Yeah.
Has there ever been a more graceful and classy-looking first lady? I mean, that whole get-up.
Yeah, the hat.
If Vogue wasn't a left-wing rag, Melania would be on the cover like every month. That was unbelievable.
But
She
here's
was
the
terrific.
thing. I mean, like, how many do women read Vogue?
I
don't
not
think so.
anymore, I don't think. I mean, they certainly did for years. And if you're a partisan Democrat, you probably
Yeah, I
still
guess
do.
if you're, but I mean, like, I wonder if you look at their subscriber base, if it fell off when Melania is the first lady in the 45 presidency, and they just treat her like dirt. The thing that I'm actually, Amazon is putting out like a documentary about her. My wife and I have been talking about like, hey, we kind of can't wait to watch it to find out the real story.
I mean, because nobody
like,
ever does any reporting on her.
Exactly. She is one of the most significant women in American history, and nobody knows the full background. I really hope they do a good job with that. I didn't mean to go down a rabbit hole.
No. I think all that stuff is super valuable. I mean, the first time I ever met President Trump in the White House, he was complaining about the fact that he's like, married to a frickin' supermodel. And like it's just sort of rote norms for these magazines to do these big covers. And it's like my wife's been in those magazines for 30 years, and now all of a sudden because she's married to me, she's not. Because I'm a Republican president, she's not. I thought it was a very funny, like, it may not bother Melania at all. It clearly bothers Donald Trump. And if you saw the way she looked today, like,
To the nines.
if you want to resurrect your publication, I'd throw her on the cover real quick. Here's somebody that may go on a cover of something. So it's Bezos' significant other. Is this, I mean, you guys definitely, so I'm not breaking any news. Everybody saw this. Lauren Sanchez. She showed up in an interesting outfit. If we can put up graphic 2, please.
This is why I subscribe to the YouTube to see.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what we're looking at here, a very tasteful pantsuit. It appears to be just lingerie underneath that sucker. Now, I don't know this lady. I'm sure she's very nice. Bezos is somebody who's obviously a titan of industry, an incredibly accomplished person. And wanted to show his respect and support for the incoming president by showing up. That might not be my first choice if my wife walked out in that on the way to the inauguration.
Yeah, it's a little low cut. A little low cut.
Can we get that image back up?
I don't know, man.
I want to give a shout out to the CEOs of Google and to Elon Musk, who are like, now's the time. Just look at the phone.
Look at your phone.
Check an email.
Look at your phone.
But look at Jeff Bezos. I mean, what an alpha. He's like, look what I have brought you.
It could not be missed. It could not be missed. And there's just like, I'm sorry, but there's no way you can walk through the crowd. And I mean, you're going to look up from your phone at some point, and that's just going on.
Yeah.
Right? And like, poor Zuck. So Mark Zuckerberg's sitting right next to her, and I think this is unfair, frankly. But all of the cameras, there's a big meme going around of graphic 3, if you wouldn't mind. There it is. There it is.
And look at where Bezos' eyes are.
There it is. Yeah. And,
He's like, what are you doing, son?
well, it looks like there's a dude behind trying to get in on that, too. I mean, like, look, I don't blame the guy at all.
No, I
There's
mean,
nothing you can do. It's
in
an
fact,
involuntary reflex.
It's very normal.
Yeah.
He's just admiring.
It's what?
You know,
Check your Facebook notifications, Mark. Check, like, see what Elon's doing. Elon's probably grinding Diablo or something on his phone. He's like, I'm not going to look, not going to look, not going to look.
I mean, do you know how hard all those people fought it? And it's probably not a gender specific thing. There's probably men and women that are like, I'm not looking. I'm not. Let's see it. You know, I mean, they have to. That's ridiculous. You wear lingerie under a pantsuit to an inauguration, you're going to get some interest, some significant interest. So anyway, that was more of sort of the color coming out of there.
Yeah.
She was a big hit. It's a
Big
big
hit.
hit. I don't know if they intended to make headlines, but they certainly did. No question about that. So remember, our question today. We have to get off to some inaugural festivities. And we apologize we couldn't come to you live, but I think we covered this. We're going to cover an awful lot more on Thursday. Can't thank you guys enough. This is sort of like putting a ribbon and a bow on what has been, 4 years for us. You all have been a huge part of it. I know a lot of work that went into it from the listeners sticking with us Tuesdays and Thursdays and listening to our takes and the things that you ought to be concerned about. We're going to continue in a big way in 2025. This was the bow that went in on all the hard work of 2024.
The bow tie, if you will.
It was the bow tie.
Yeah, but we've only just begun to fight.
That's right.
That's exactly right. So remember our question of the day, what was the best part of the inaugural speech? You let us know by liking, subscribing. We'll read all of those and get back to you on Thursday. With that, fellas, I think we did it.
I think we did do it. And you know what? I'd like to say, toast to President Trump. Much success to his presidency, and toast to all the minions. So, until next time, minions, keep the faith, hold the line, and own the libs. We'll see you on Thursday. Stay ruthless.